Okay, the people that called me from Longview, did y'all make it here yet?
We're here.
Okay. All right. I didn't know how much did you miss the whole spill over there? Or did you hear any of it? Okay, well, I'm glad y'all made it. I'll get with you as soon as I finish right here, and we'll get y'all's tickets and stuff, okay? All right. We are obviously inside of the old Jefferson Hotel, and what we just came in is the front of the hotel now, but in the old days, that would have been the back of the building. What is now the back of the building would have been the front because it faced the river. The one thing about this building too is the ghost stories have been here a very long time. This isn't something new that's just popped up with the popularity of ghosts. I've been told ghost stories from some of the old timers that go back 120, 130 years. So there's been ghost stories here and documented for a very long time. This was originally built 1850, 1851 as a cotton warehouse. It's been a hotel since 1861. Back in the 1870s, a portion of the upstairs was known as the Crystal Palace. Crystal Palace was a saloon, but they also, of course, have rumors of some other shenanigans going on upstairs, if you get my drift. In fact, I managed this hotel back in the 1990s for about 8.5 years. And there was an original deed from that time period that actually listed the inventory from the Crystal Palace. And one thing that it specified in this was that the women that worked in the saloon were only allowed to use one entrance into the building. They did not want the reputation of the hotel soiled in any way from whatever was going on upstairs in the, Crystal Palace. So it's pretty funny, some of the stuff that we've actually come across. When we were doing research in the archives down at the museum, there's actually a book that says Jefferson, Texas Laws, 1869. And it was listing all these new ordinances that they were putting into effect, like if you were found laying drunk in the middle of the street, what your fine was going to be. But the one that totally cracked me up stated that all lewd women, and I didn't realize I had an accent. People always think I say nude. Lewd, L-E-W-D. Said all lewd women had to be off the streets of Jefferson by 9 o'clock at night, or you could be fined $10, no less than $100 at the discretion of the mayor. And I'm thinking $100 in 1869, that was a whole lot of money. So it's really interesting, the stuff that we do come across. But this particular property is definitely on that scale of 1 to 10. This one's definitely a 10. When I worked here, this was in a restaurant. It was a regular restaurant, and then it became La Machi's, which was an Italian restaurant. And I can guarantee you, if it was a weekday that the restaurant was closed on, they were closed on Wednesday sometimes, I was not going in the kitchen to get me a cup of coffee by myself. The kitchen in this place, definitely a very active area. They've renumbered the rooms in the last 3 years. New owners bought it 3 years ago, and they're the ones that brought in the collection of antiques and oddities that you see in here now. Room 19 is the only room number that has not changed. Room 19 is upstairs at the very back of the building on the left-hand side. That has always been one of the more popular, more talked about rooms. There is a bed in there that is original to the hotel. They call it a bishop's bed, beautiful antique bed. And there evidently is a woman attached to this bed because it sat in another room for years. Then they moved it to another room, and then they finally placed it in room 19 where it now sits. But whenever that bed is in a particular room, guests that are staying there will often describe the presence of a woman, even going as far as to seeing her standing beside the bed, the foot of the bed. A few people have even said that she's actually covered them up, and they've described it as a very protective or motherly presence. They say it's not anything threatening. I'm thinking, somebody's standing by my bed in the middle of the night, and they're not supposed to be there. I would find that a little bit threatening. But whenever they've moved the bed to another room, all the stories seem to start happening in the room where the bed is located. So it's like something is following the bed. Now, when I first moved to Jefferson back in the late 70s, there was a story I was told about a woman that supposedly had hung herself in this hotel back in the 1800s. And I worked with a town historian for a long time, and we always did a lot of research trying to see if we could get information on this story, because we thought More than likely, it was probably one of those legend type stories that you always hear being associated with old buildings or hotels or castles, the lady in white, the lady in gray, the jilted bride kind of thing. So one day we were actually looking for some other stuff and just happened to come across an old newspaper article from the early 1900s that tells the story. It is a very true story. It did not happen in the 1800s. It was the early 1900s. The woman's name was Lydia. Her last name was Grigsby. The wedding was to take place at the Methodist church here, and her fiance had sent word that he was not coming to marry her. And it states that she came back to the hotel where her family was staying and that she had hung herself in her parents' room. So you got to remember, back then, things were a lot different. That's kind of a slap in the whole family's face to be stood up at the altar. And we're trying to do some additional research because this hotel at one time in the late 1800s was actually called the Grigsby House Hotel. So I don't know if it's a connection to the family in some way or if it was just a coincidence that this girl's last name was Grigsby, because the Schluter family has actually owned this building, or had owned it from the early 1900s at that time. So lots of questions that we still don't have answered on that story, but it is a true story. Hearing and seeing children when there's no children staying here has always been a big story that they talk about here. When I worked here, I came in one morning, grumpy little old man waiting at the front desk, complaining because somebody's bratty kids had kept him up all night long. And then I look over and find out he and his wife were the only two people in the whole place all night long. So who he was hearing, I don't know. He said at first it was just giggling and running, normal kid stuff. He said it quieted down, and then sometime in the middle of the night, he said you could hear him in the hall giggling, and they were rattling his door handle. So yeah, pretty creepy stuff. And people usually want to know what they look like. And when someone comes up to me that has stayed and says, hey, we're staying at the hotel, we encountered the kids, we saw them. And I'll ask them, I said, really? I said, what did they look like? What were they wearing? What were they doing? Because I want to see if people are seeing the same thing or if people are just kind of making stuff up. So I don't usually disclose a whole lot of information about what the supposed ghost children look like because I want to see what people are seeing. I've started giving just a little bit of info now because when Jeremy and Pam first bought the hotel, he said the very first night they stayed here, he put his suitcase down in front of the dresser upstairs in room 15. When he looked up, in the reflection of the mirror, behind him was a little boy that had popped up. And of course, when he turned around to look, there was absolutely nobody there. But he's always described as having curly hair, wearing suspenders, has a little rounded collar. I forgot what they call those little collars. But that's the exact description that people give the little boy. So you never know when or where something's going to happen in this hotel. There are times when everything's fine and you just step over the threshold to walk into a room and you get that very uneasy, unsettled feeling. The room where perfect timing clock. The room where the mirrors are now, I told you they have theme rooms here. The mirror room has over, 150 mirrors up there, Jeremy? Woo. And there's one that is absolutely beautiful. It's a very large gold, very gilt-looking mirror. It's over 200 years old, and there's only supposed to be a few like this exact one left in existence. And it has diamond dust in the glass. When you shine a light on it, the thing just flickers. It's beautiful. And that room is one that's always been like 19, one that's always talked about as being very active. And now they have 150 mirrors in here. I don't know if that's a good combination or not, but I can tell you one story. When I worked here, there were 3 women staying in that room. 2 of them getting ready to go to dinner, doing their hair and their makeup. Other ladies walking around taking pictures. No men with them whatsoever. She snaps a picture in the bathroom of them getting ready to go eat. In the reflection in the mirror, right in the middle between the 2 women, there's a man with a bald head and a handlebar mustache that shows up in her picture. So that's why I tell y'all, I'm the skeptic, but you would not believe the stuff that shows up on cameras. And Jeremy and Pam have probably 100 security cameras in this building because of all the stuff that they have in here. And before they bought it, it was vacant for probably close to 3 years. And of course, people were always trying to get in because of the history of the ghost and stuff here. So I'm going to let Jeremy show y'all real quick before I let y'all walk around a couple of things that they've captured on their security cameras, okay? Just to give you an idea of what goes on in here.
All right, so this one right here, this first clip, we were here when we first bought the hotel. You're about to see me run upstairs in my underwear on this clip. But
That's scary as the ghosties, right?
But I got an alert on my camera that said there was someone upstairs, and I was thinking intruder, not ghost. We knew the place had a haunted history and all that, but here I go right here. I'm gonna run upstairs, look down the hall. There we go.
You notice it's like 4 a.m, y'all.
And so I'm looking down the hall and everything. I noticed nothing was there, so I tell my wife, hey, if I say call 911 because I thought there was an intruder, right? So we looked and looked, nothing. Nobody was back there. We searched for 2 hours.
I noticed you're not running down there to see.
Yeah. And so anyway, I look back at the footage and I'm like, okay, what is going on? Like, why? We saw someone walk through, so let me pull up the footage. Now this is the back hall. Did you tell them about room 19?
Yeah, back there with the bride. Bride bed.
So this is where the bride hangs herself. Well, the bed resides in 19, where the bride hangs herself. On the right is room 11. Now the reason why I tell you that because you're going to see something walk from right to left, and the problem is the doorways line up kind of like this.
They're not right across from each other.
Yeah, whatever this is, this goes right through it. So let me play here and see what we get. There we go. Yeah.
Now what's creepy, y'all, is they redid this over and over with someone walking from one side of the room or the hallway to the other. You can clearly see when it's a person.
Yeah, so there it is right there. You can kind of see through it in certain spots. It changes shape. It's blocking out the light in the door. And yeah, you can clearly tell it's not a person. So that was one of the first clips we got. After that, I'm putting out antiques, throughout the hotel. We have a massive antique collection we brought in. But this door's about to open on its own, and then my name gets called. So you see all this stuff.
That's one good thing about having cameras. You just never know what you're going to get.
Right, yeah. So my wife's about to come out right here, and because she hadn't experienced much yet, so I'm like, come out here. And sure enough, she got her experience right here. I'll show you what happened in the kitchen. So Jody told you that in the kitchen it was kind of like a hot spot of the hotel. And it used to be an Italian restaurant, so now it's just our family restaurant, but I'm going to turn it up.
Family restaurant? Your family kitchen?
Yeah, oh yeah, sorry. Well, so she cooks like one. Yeah, so I'm going to turn it up.
She cooks like it's a restaurant.
She gets a funny reaction here at the end. By the way, let me tell you what's going to happen. I forgot. There's dishes behind here, and they have, they're on a beam. So there's like a rack of dishes been there a couple days. They're on a beam, steady beam. It's not going anywhere. So that's kind of the backstory.
Wow.
Show Eddie.
Oh no! Wait, you show Eddie, but show that one thing in the kitchen real quick. Okay. He has a new. I know this because he showed it already, but he's got a new thing on here. There were some friends that had come, and they were sitting in the kitchen at a table playing cards. And one of them's terrified of the hotel. And they were already telling her you'll be fine. Nothing's going to happen. And she was talking about they had got some new horses, and they said the dad was a black horse. And as soon as she says that, y'all watch what happens over here.
Whole area explodes back there.
That guy holding his chest cracks me up.
I don't think they like.
So the last video I'll show you, we do have a doll room like Jody said. Of course, with every doll room, you gotta have a haunted doll. So this is Eddie the doll. He's upstairs. You'll see him.
He's in a curio cabinet case outside of the doll room on the wall.
Alright, so of all the hauntings and possible entities, there's nothing that freaks me out more than haunted dolls.
Agreed.
This next clip comes to us from a guy named Jeremy Jones. He bought an antique doll named Eddie for his doll collection.
Hold up, this guy collects dolls?
Yeah.
Okay.
One night at 4 a.m., he heard a noise coming from his doll room.
Dude, there's a doll room?
Where's the dolls gonna stay?
That don't sound creepy to y'all.
Some people call it creepy, some people call it comfy. This is Creepy Eddie. Let's watch the clip.
I swear I just heard plastic moving again. This has happened like the third night in a row.
So that's Eddie down in the corner in the red and white striped shirt.
That Chucky's cousin. What was that? That you up there? Eddie, if that was you, can you move?
He said he found out you never ask a doll if it can move.
Hell no.
was pop locking.
It doesn't end there. We have more.
He need to move. There's more.
That's my giant Tesla coil.
This man just went from eccentric dog collector to Dr. Frankenstein.
He's got the Tesla coil. He's trying to pump some demons into that.
See if it'll give it.
Getting stressed out.
You can tell they aired this at Halloween Convention.
I'm also checking out a new.
Listen, he wants Eddie to kill him.
Now, check out young Eddie in this final clip.
You're gonna be watching up
We're
top.
doing another live stream here,
Right there.
and he was. We were asking him to move.
That's his number one move. Yeah.
And he was, we were asking them to move.
Oh,
There you go.
All right. That's enough to get you started, isn't it? All right, let me tell y'all what we're going to do, okay?